Young man. Dun, 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 I say young man. I'm Arizona Family political editor Dennis Welch.
Dennis, fake news Welch. Try to tell the truth.
And this is the Politics Unplugged podcast.
Dennis, if you have a problem with substance abuse, I am more than willing to talk to you anytime you need.
Welcome back to Politics Unplugged, the podcast edition. And as always, I am pleased to announce I'm joined by Stacy Pearson today because we're talking about one of your favorite subjects. Some infighting going on with the Democratic Party, and some of the Democratic officials, all the statewide, are mad at the party chairman.
Yeah. Dysfunction really is my specialty. So thank you for having me on to discuss it.
As you once said recently to me, and I think the quote was, "I love talking about idiots."
I do. I really do. I mean, how do you make a already difficult situation worse?
Yeah.
You send an email on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Well, the recap real quick for folks unfamiliar is Chairman Branscombe sends out this email. Was it last weekend?
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning
missive.
Yeah, it was a hell of a thing to the rank and file out there. It was just an update from the chairman, and he goes after most of the party leaders, the two senators. I think the governor was involved in this.
The governor was not mentioned.
Oh, it was the two senators.
Correct.
Senator Kelly,
Correct.
Senator Gallego, accusing them of intimidation, trying to sow some racial tensions there because,
insinuated staff did, yes.
Yeah, insinuated that staff was accusing him of his unlikely victory in January to take over the party as as a fight between black and brown people. So a lot of really nasty stuff going on here. And in response, didn't take long to get a response. You've got all the Democratic statewides, two senators, governor, attorney general, secretary of state, people who can't agree on much, all agreed to sign a joint letter saying that they've lost their trust and their faith in their party chairman. So the bottom line is, heading into 2026, Democrats would rather fight with each other than with Democrats. Prove me wrong.
Let's see.
It should be noted that you are a longtime Democrat a Democratic strategist. Your job, most of your job in your professional career is to get Democrats elected.
I do. I often have to do that despite the party. That is part of the fundamental problem. This is why I'm an interesting person to be discussing this.
Yes.
Is that this is not new. I mean, of the last three chairs, two of the last three chairs have criticized publicly the incumbents. So it was Raquel Tehran who perpetuated a coup against then Senior Senator Sinema. And now we have this guy who I've not met sending out missives on a Saturday morning. Well, I thought there were a number of things I thought that were very funny in that letter. One is that you wake up that mad. I mean, usually those are the drafts you put together the night before, and you wake up and you go, yeah, I'll probably file off the corners on this thing. I think he doubled down.
That's the letter you write and then hit delete.
Yeah, you write. You send to your confidant and go, "Hey, I'm going to sit on this tonight, but tomorrow morning, let me know what I should send." And then your real friends go, "Don't send that.
Yeah,
don't do that." A couple of real important points on this thing is the party only has two jobs, and I may have mentioned this before. Raise money.
Can I guess?
Oh, please guess. Please guess.
It's to raise money and get Democrats elected. Was I right?
Register voters.
Register voters.
Then the rest comes.
Yeah, okay.
But raise money, register voters, raise money, register voters, raise money, register voters. And the money gets raised through the folks that are already elected statewide.
Yeah.
And that is Kelly, Gallego, the governor, other statewide elected officials.
And we hear, according to Branscombe, one of the senators told him that they were no longer going to participate in helping the party raise money. Rumor is, this is not capital J journalism here. This is small J. I'm reporting a rumor here.
Mm-hmm.
Rumor is that it was Gallego who said he was no longer going to participate in fundraising there. Now, whether that bears out to be true or not, I don't know. But I've got, according to my reporting, I got a 50-50 shot of being right on that one.
So you do indeed have a 50-50 shot of picking the right United States Senator representing Arizona. You're right. But no, that's how this works. The same thing happened with Sinema when they censured her. She said, okay, have a nice time. See you never again. So that's how the fundraising operation works. Mm-hmm. They have options, either PACs, super PACs, other county parties that then get federalized. I mean, there are lots of options to move money. And it's not that Arizona is going to be any less of a funder's priority, mm-hmm. but whether or not it goes to the state party.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because it's not just right now. It's Democrats fighting. The last cycle, it was Republicans. Remember, Carrie Lake had that secret recording of.
We're one step away from that. I mean, the thread is very short.
I mean, I feel though, you mentioned, their job is to raise money, register voters. This gets Democrats elected. I'm going to throw mine in there. I feel like just chairman's on all level here in the state, this lost the plot of the job.
100%.
What the hell happened?
I have no idea.
Because it used to be you never heard from the party chairman.
That was ideal.
It was like you
didn't know his or her name is a good place to be.
Yeah, they just raising money like Bob Fannin way back in the day. I mean, can you imagine him, getting involved in this kind of stuff? But that kind of change started really changing. I think Kelly Ward was the most drastic change I'd ever seen with a party chair woman. Because shortly after she became the chair, she's down at the legislature and she was campaigning for or lobbying for or supporting
chemtrails.
No, not chemtrails. This is post chemtrail.
Oh,
a tax increase.
Yeah,
which is insane.
Nuts.
What's the chairman do? I mean, what the hell has happened here? I mean, again, Brandt's going, why would you send that out? So, I mean, because these kinds of fights happen all the time in politics, but they happen in rooms and nobody's recording. Nobody's putting this stuff out. You take care of it in-house and move on. Well,
and to the message that the elected sent about losing trust, losing faith, the chair of the Democratic Party, chair of anybody, a chair of a PAC, chair of a super PAC, someone running a campaign that's tertiary to what we're trying to accomplish, has access to all sorts of stuff, polling, ID. So when you're in the voter file in the software that you're registering your contacts with voters, you can see, okay, I knocked on this door, they donate to animal welfare causes, and they're supporting Yasemin Ansari. You see these profiles of people. They have a tremendous amount of information at their fingertips. They're looking at polling in crosstabs. They can see, hey, we've got a problem with white women over 50, making up these pockets. You have to have absolute confidence that the chair of your party is going to know when to shut the F up. And this clearly does not instill confidence. And because you really do get, you see your finger is so much higher in the air that you see the winds shift first.
Yeah, and it's got to hurt too because, again, if you stick to the first part of the job, raise money. This is like a stock market, right?
Yep.
I mean, if there was a company that was dysfunctional, are you going to invest in that stock? Well, hell no, you're not.
Yeah.
I mean, people looking to donating money to the party right now is going to look at this and go, you got to get your shit straightened out, sir, before I start giving you money. And so, the senators aren't up for re-election this next cycle. The governor is. She's going to be able to raise money.
Of course. And she does have a campaign to fund, too. That's her primary priority.
Yeah. I mean, I see this as really hurting down ballot legislative efforts.
So I think that's actually going to be the solution is go to other organizations like the ADLCC, or if you follow the McCain model, you pick a random county. In the situation with McCain, when he and his party went sideways, the relationship with his party went sideways, he fundraised into Yuma. So I really hope the La Paz County Democrats listening today are getting ready, or whatever, if it's Coconino, if it's Pima, if it's Maricopa, but the money will still come in. It's just gonna go somewhere else.
Yeah, and the bottom line is if you're not familiar with the ins and outs of campaigning and whatnot. Running things through the party, I mean, it lowers the cost considerably for campaigns.
Yep, it does. And there's an economy of scale.
Yeah.
And this data collection I was talking about, that the person at the party can say, this is going really well, let's spend more money here. Yeah. Or we've got issues with Latino men who have Trump signs in their yards. Let's go fix that. I mean, they're really, the economy of scale at a state party is typically helpful.
Yeah.
but this situation with a big public divorce is not unheard of in Arizona. I mean, we've got the lockdown on crazy for sure.
Because you look at, it's not only like the savings on digital data that you can get from the state party, but also the old school analog stuff, because you still get a discount to send out that mail piece. Mm-hmm. If you're going through the party.
Yeah, and there's vendors, and you're working with the national consultants that actually send these mail pieces out. I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure that comes with the national party. Mm-hmm. But in a situation like we're in, if the senior senator and Senator Gallego decide, hey, we're moving left, we're everybody get to Coconino County or Apache County, Navajo County, whatever it is, that's the infrastructure will move with.
Yeah. So how does this get resolved, or does it get resolved at all? Or what should the chairman be doing? Because it sounds like, to me, I spoke briefly, and I mean briefly, with the chairman on the phone. Pretty sure he didn't look at his phone before he answered it, actually.
Oh.
or didn't know that it was me that was calling, because, whatever. Did not want to talk, but, I did ask, is like, they've lost, the statewides have lost their trust in you. You're going to resign. And he said to me, quote, "I've done nothing wrong." I mean,
okay.
Does this get resolved at all?
I doubt it. I mean, there is no putting this Humpty Dumpty back together and getting it back on the wall. I mean, if there's a coup in June, which is the next regularly scheduled
I don't see
statewide,
that happening.
Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? I mean, one of the really funny things about the letter that I'm very proud of for the Democrats is that we didn't have a folder called passwords just to pass on to the new guy. So we didn't have a nice big folder of all of our banking information. I mean, some of the criticism, we're talking about a woman, the previous chair, who didn't expect to be unelected. And his criticism of not having a transition plan, she didn't have a transition plan. She thought she was going to get reelected. She was endorsed by every statewide office holder.
Well, yeah, well, and to that point, from what have you heard about? I don't know Mr. Branscombe very well, but from what I've heard about him is he really sees himself as that change agent, as somebody who's coming in and challenging the establishment. What do you hear?
So where I think there's confusion is people are demanding transparency and they're demanding accountability. They want to see where money got spent. They want to know why a decade of Latino voter registration ended in a big L in West Phoenix, in Southern Arizona. They want that accountability. They want to figure out where 100,000 Democrats went. I mean, I know I'm boring people to death with my rants on this, but getting people to believe me when I said we have 100,000 dead canaries in the coal mine in Arizona, and that's just net loss of registered Democrats. Well, independents and Republicans are gaining. People didn't believe me because the party wasn't talking about it, not at the county level and definitely not at the state level. It was nothing to see here. Everything's fine. So the demand for transparency and accountability is on the basics. How much money did you raise? Who was responsible for bringing it in? Where did you spend it? And how many voters do we have registered today? Is it more than yesterday? You did a good job.
Yeah.
If it's not more than yesterday, you did a bad job.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of talk at the end of the last presidential cycle on the national level. Remember all the talk about the Democratic infrastructure in the swing states and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happened there, it seems like the Democrats are heading into 2026 with some crappy infrastructure. And it's not, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better right now. And this fight is not helping, correct?
No. Yeah, it is. It is a very dicey situation. I mean, we have Republican women in the suburbs voting like Democrats, voting for choice, voting for Ruben Gallego, voting for education funding, raising taxes, all of these other things. You've got particularly members of the LDS Church that our party doesn't want to talk to. And
seems like a problem.
It's weird. It's a weird situation. But what happened last weekend, where we should be building a bigger tent and making sure everybody inside is pissing out. The chair of the party took his own fire hose to the whole circus. Like, this is your only job. Again, register voters, raise money. But kind of above that is make sure everybody in the tent is peeing that way.
Outside.
Yeah. And instead, he took a fire hose, and the whole circus is stinky.
Yeah,
so
not a good place, and it's going to make things, I think, just from the infrastructure point of view, that much harder for Katie Hobbs, other statewides, if they want to keep it for Chris Mays, for Adrian Fontes, for everybody to keep their jobs, because you're looking at right now what's about a 300,000 voter
spread,
registration disadvantage for Democrats. This looks like a huge opportunity for Republicans at this point.
It's not good.
Yeah.
I mean, you take the polling that the last piece of polling going into 2022, and you apply those same levels of support to the voter registration numbers today, and we don't win a statewide seat. So the only way, which has always been the case, the only way Democrats win statewide is they get Republicans. They get a certain percentage of Republicans to vote for them.
It seems like a negative feedback loop, because you saw you worked with Kirsten Sinema a lot, right?
Yeah.
So the strategy is like, okay, I got to get X amount of Republicans on my side to win this, and then you've got to govern in a way that you got to keep those Republicans on that side, and then the Democrats get pissed off at you because you're too conservative for their taste, and it just keeps going like that. It seems like this negative feedback loop.
It's weird, right? It's weird. It's almost like in 2016 when Sheriff Penzone won and said the one place ICE should be is in the jails. If you've already been arrested for something, your immigration status matters there more than anywhere else. It's almost like that's where the country was. That's where the state was. That's what the general sentiment is. I mean, it is. Penzone's a good example after he beat Arpaio and he had to stay center right. Sinema's a great example and didn't spook anybody and away from voting for Mark Kelly. I mean, there's a formula and it works. And I don't know how Saturday's missive helps.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Yeah, it to a certain point. But like, you're starting to get a situation that's critical. I mean, the voter registration disadvantage, I think Republicans have expanded that this year.
Oh, yeah.
Already.
So we were 20,000 voters ahead of independents in 2020. Democrats were. We're about 90,000 down on Republicans. So 70,000. So it was statistically even, the three parties. Democrats have dropped like a rock. We are 300,000 down compared to the number of registered Republicans, and a couple 100,000 down now compared to independents. So it's not just we fell to third, it's a distant third.
Yeah.
And the party has to figure out what that problem is. What happened to the people, the 100,000 that left the Democratic Party? Why did they go? What are they mad about? Is it crime? Was it Sinema's censure? Was it, it could be anything. Is it economics? Is it that they're stuck in traffic on I-10? No one has those answers yet. And the only way we're going to win is to figure that out.
Seems like it might be already kind of too late to figure that out, because, I mean, it gets late early in these election cycles now, and these elections are starting earlier and earlier and earlier. I mean, Karen Taylor Robeson, I think, launched her campaign in February this year.
Yep. It's not too late. The chances of us making up those voter registration disadvantages for us to close that gap's impossible.
That's what I'm
in 500 days.
That's
right?
what I'm talking. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, because you got 500 days. You just mentioned this long list of what the hell.
1,000 voters a day. We would have to be registering 1,000 voters a day. It's bonkers.
Yeah, it's bonkers. But you're like trying to figure out what's wrong, what's happening, why is the Dem Party sick like a rock.
We can do that though. We can figure it out. We can get messaging together, meet people where they're at, remind them that we can hold two thoughts at once. Like this is the future of the Democratic Party, to say, look, we want a secure border, but we also respect and appreciate the role migrants play in, I don't know, our food system or our construction industry,
Excellent.
in our lives. We can do both things. We can have a secure border and figure out a way to treat people humanely. We can want lower taxes, and we can figure out a way to fund education. I mean, these two things can coexist.
Yeah. Interesting times. We're running out of time. Anything more you got to say about this?
What do I have to say? I really thought it made for a spicy Saturday. It was
an interesting weekend. I got a call Saturday afternoon from somebody, one of the staffers. They're like, I picked up the phone. I'm like, "Are you calling me about this crap?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I'm not working today, man."
I opened my email and laughed at the fact that we didn't have a folder called passwords. Like I chuckled out loud. Well, at least there's that. At least we
are told not to write our passwords down anywhere in case somebody steals them.
I mean, I think that's a good rule, but I was just glad we didn't have a. And then I poured a drink. That's what I did. That was my Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, do you think he was not treated well then with the transition?
I think I would assume that every word in his missive was true.
Okay.
It doesn't mean he should have sent it.
There you go. That's, I guess that's the moral of the story.
Yeah. I mean,
just because you're right doesn't mean you have to express it.
And there's to what end, right?
Well, that's gotten me in trouble a lot. Yeah, I could be
Who
right.
among us hasn't wanted to say, burn it down, burn it all down?
And you're right, but you don't say it.
You don't say it.
On that, I think we'll just be wrapping it up. But let's end with this, where we kind of started before we started recording here, because I look to you for these kinds of things. What's the best place to get a cocktail in Phoenix right now?
Best place for an actual mixed cocktail.
Where does Stacy Pearson go?
I go to dive bars. I go to the seediest dive bar.
So when you order a dirty martini,
you tell me where I run into you.
So when you order a dirty martini at your bar, there's actual dirt in it.
No, yeah. I mean, come on. If you have not overconsumed at Jimbo's on, what is it, 43rd, 51st Avenue? Like, are you even in Arizona? And I don't think so.
Or if you haven't stopped in and pounded a few brewskis when it's 120 degrees at the Ice House over there.
Yeah, if I haven't run into you at the Ice House, do we even work in this business? I don't know.
So Jimbo's your answer? That's the best place to get a.
Yep, it was my dad's favorite watering hole. I spent many a day early in the afternoon hanging out with my dad, who had my baby running around the bar.
You don't understand.
Oh.
I grew up in bars.
Oh.
Okay, that sounded weird, but I grew up in bars.
So true story. Yeah. After my dad died, we went to Jimbo's for breakfast for his birthday, for the following 4th of July. And my daughter was probably, my dad would take her there in the mornings and have breakfast with her after he'd pick her up from me. And my kid was like 15 maybe, and we go to play darts, and she nails a bullseye on her first throw. We're like,
Dad, that was for you.
Yeah, he's here.
All right, we'll have to end it there, and we'll bring in Colin here in a minute. Maybe I'll talk him into taping the next Politics Unplugged at Jimbo's.
We need to
we need to take Politics Unplugged on the road.
Yes.
On the road.
Yes. This is exactly what we need. With a bartender named Connie.
When we do that,
some chicken wings.
We will have you there.
I'm in.
All right. Thanks, Stacy, as always.
Thanks.
And welcome back to the home stretch of the Politics Unplugged podcast. Colin Stanton, producer extraordinaire. How the hell are you, man?
I'm good. Always a pleasure. It's nice to be here.
It's great. Love having Stacy on, man.
Yeah. Stacy's great. Stacy's like the perfect podcast guest.
What's the job of the chairman? Well, raise money, register voters, and make sure everybody's pissing outside the tent.
Yes. Yeah. And sadly, we had an internal pisser.
Yeah.
Not a great idea.
Oh, man. So other than that, man, what stood out to you this week on the political side of things?
I don't know. The big story just remained the whole disabled funding issue, which all along has seemed like an own goal to me for the state Republicans. I don't know why they brought it to this point. I don't know exactly what they thought they were going to accomplish.
Yeah.
They just look mean and petty.
Yeah, it seemed like they were, picking a fight with people you shouldn't be picking a fight with.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 60,000 disabled people in Arizona who depend on services from this committee that was about to run out of money.
Yeah.
How else do you think you're going to look?
Yeah.
And the goal was from the beginning, I mean, look, they were trying to make it look like it was mismanagement from the governor's part. And they were trying to gig her on budget mismanagement there. You can't find something else.
Yeah, it was a bad political move. I don't understand it. I would think they would be more politically savvy than that.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are with a deal they could have reached from the beginning,
mm-hmm.
Without looking like ogres.
Yeah, and again, I think with a lot of issues, next year they're not going to, most voters aren't going to be sitting down with their ballots and go, well, you remember that fighting over DDD? Yeah. But I think it goes into that cumulative branding thing.
Yeah, and I mean the families of 60,000 Arizonans will certainly remember it.
They will remember that.
And not everyone with a handicapped child is a Democrat.
No, certainly
not. It was just weird.
Yeah, yeah, and I just think overall, like beyond that community, I just think. It plays into that kind of like, man, that they just look mean.
Yeah,
they look like they're punching down and they're punching people who are vulnerable.
And they're not in a great place right now to be stressing the importance of guardrails and making sure money is spent correctly
when their ESA programs have
exactly So.
No, and and you start looking at the heart of the fight was on that paying parents for caring for their kids.
Yeah,
my mother takes care of my father's his primary caregiver. My father, has got some issues, struggles with PTSD and these kinds of things, and is paid some federal funds to take as his caregiver. Let me tell you something. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And some of the folks that we saw testify, in committee this past couple of weeks about this, like their kid suffers from some debilitating, condition, suffers several seizures, can suffer multiple seizures a week and all this other kinds of stuff. I mean, it is all consuming. And the fact that Republicans were like, well, no, we want to cap parent pay at 20 hours a week. Like, you don't understand. Like, even 40 hours a week of what they got is still probably less than some of the work these parents are doing.
Yes. And the hours are determined by doctors.
Yeah.
Yes. Not only cutting it, but saying we know better than the doctors who have examined.
Hey, where have we heard
patients.
That argument before? Was it the abortion?
Yeah, we get a lot of that these days.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I mean, like let the doctors do the doctoring, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand. You're going to begrudge somebody, parenting. I don't have parents, or not parents. I don't have kids. I'm not a parent. I would assume it's a 24/7 job, and under the best conditions.
Yes. Yes. You add in the challenges that these families have faced, and I'm amazed that no one in the party, or very few in the party, seem to look at this and go, this is an absolute political loser. What are we doing? What do we get this over with? And if we want to start hacking at the governor on something, make up something else, but this isn't the one to do it on.
Yeah. I think for me too, what also stood out this week was, to the shock of no one, Trump endorses both Republican candidates for governor.
Yeah.
Nobody, anybody shocked out there? You shouldn't be. Then you haven't been listening to this podcast.
And Robeson had it early, didn't she?
She got a soft endorsement before she was running.
Yeah.
She's at an event, a Trump event, was it late December, maybe after he won or something, and looks over at her and says, and Karen Taylor Robeson, I like her, and she runs, she's got my full endorsement. I always looked at that as a soft endorsement.
Yeah.
figuring, well, let's see who else jumps in. As soon as Biggs jumped in, it's like, well, okay, game on, because Biggs has a tight relationship with
Right.
Donald Trump.
You would think between the two of them, it's Biggs that he would endorse.
Yeah.
But he already had the other one on the record.
Yeah, and maybe I think the talking point now coming out of Camp Robeson is like, well, now we don't have to. That issue's off the table. It cancels each other out, so we don't have to talk about that anymore. I'm like, okay,
All right. Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. I still contend that it comes down to whether Biggs can raise the kind of money to be competitive. Because Karen Taylor Robeson, we saw campaign finance reports come out for Q1 of this year. And the big news for me out of that is it was just shocking to see, was that she had forgiven $17 million worth of debt her campaign did from the prior campaign in 2022. And that was all money she loaned her campaign.
Yes.
It's a lot of damn money, man.
She
for a
spent
governor's race?
$17 million to lose the primary in the governor's race.
Just in loans. I think the total is more than that. I think it's closer to $22 million. Remember, $17 million in debt. She still owes $1.5 million in debt.
Yeah.
For a job that pays $95,000 a year.
Yes.
Folks, we lost the plot here. Have we lost perspective?
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. And to spend that much of your own money and lose and then think, well, I'm going to do it again. Let's try it again.
I mean, it begs the question, like, how wealthy are you? And I don't, that's a political question, because I think that kind of stuff could turn certain folks off. I don't know. I mean, you've got Donald Trump. You got Donald Trump, who is a billionaire by his accounts.
Yeah.
That certainly hasn't hurt him. But in Arizona, there is a long history of Arizona voters, particularly in the general election, of rejecting wealthy self-funders.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's a certain portion of the American public that I think just naturally assumes anyone who has more money than them is a better person.
Yeah.
If you're rich, it must be because you're a better person. It can't be because your dad owned an emerald mine. It has to be just because you're clever and, invent cars or something. I don't know how the hell that's going to work with ropes in Arizona. I don't know that that's necessarily Arizona may be shifting that way based on how Trump's done here. But I'm not sure a candidate who flies her private jet from Scottsdale to Glendale is necessarily
happened
that appealing.
It happened in 2022.
Yeah.
Also, stop me if I've told this story on the podcast before, but one of my favorite moments was when she was dodging the question of who won the 2020 election.
Yeah.
And she kept saying, well, you'd ask who won the 2020 election, and she says, well, Joe Biden is president.
Yeah.
Okay. You'd follow up, but who won?
Yeah.
Joe Biden is president. And then she started saying, and I know this because I'm reminded every day when I go to fill up my car. I'm like, what? I'm like, this is a woman who has a private yacht, I think maybe 2, private jet.
Yeah.
I think a nine seat passenger Lear jet can fly from here to Paris without refueling, I think.
Yeah.
And the price of gas is like crimping, is biting your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a reach. Yeah. Yeah. Although, to be honest, that fuel bill from Scottsdale to Glendale probably really sucked for that private jet.
Probably. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, that's how expensive gas was thanks to Biden. She couldn't afford to drive from Scottsdale to Glendale. She had to fly.
Well, and it's been a while since I checked on the price of jet fuel.
Yeah.
I'm
Is it way down under Trump now? I don't know.
I don't know. That's one of those things I absolutely know shit about.
Yeah, it doesn't come up much.
No, I don't know any of that.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a week! What a week! Draft week.
Yeah.
Sports.
NFL draft. The Cardinals pick some dude. I don't know.
I've never seen him play.
Yeah, I don't know.
People are pretty excited.
Cool.
I can't even think of his name right now. It's like Walter Nolan.
I don't know. I don't remember. But yay. Good.
Yay.
Future's bright. Big story of day one, and as we tape this, day one's in the books, day two hasn't started, but it was Shedeur Sanders dropping out of the first round.
Yes.
Which, and I think people are going to make a lot out of it being he interviewed poorly and is generally an asshole. I think it has more to do with the fact that he's not that great at quarterback.
Yeah.
As we say, he's probably going to go pretty early in the second round. There are enough teams like the Browns have the first pick in the second round. They still don't have a quarterback. They would seem like a fairly good option to pick him, but there are plenty of teams that have a need there. He's probably the best quarterback left. The other guys who are listed as this is one of those years, man, where the quarterback crop just looks brutal.
Well, I think though too, with someone like Shedeur Sanders, is when you're drafting him, you're drafting Deion Sanders.
There's some of that too,
and Deion's got a lot of juice in the digital world. A couple of social media posts, could do a lot of damage if he's not happy on the way his son's being used.
Yeah.
And played in an NFL on an NFL team. That could, that I think that would be a legit consideration for certain organizations who worry about those kinds of things.
And on top of that, Shedeur conducted himself like a horse's ass in college.
Okay.
Going to the student section wherever they were playing and pointing to his wrist to remind them he has a Rolex because his dad's rich. What are you doing?
Well, I'm sure he had a pretty sweet NIL deal too.
There was probably that too.
Yeah.
But constantly throwing his teammates under the bus. I mean, if you're a quarterback and you're constantly bitching about how useless your offensive line is, good luck trying that in the NFL.
Well, do you think that's going to make the line try harder?
Right. And I watched him play. Yeah, the line wasn't very good. They also had a quarterback who played like the ball was glued to his hand. Yeah. He won't get rid of the ball. And that's a tough thing to break a quarterback of. And I'm sure the teams are looking at this going, can we teach this guy to throw the ball or throw it away and just not take a sack on every single passing play because he won't get the ball out of his hand?
Yeah.
He's not that athletic. He's got good accuracy. The arm's okay.
I thought like arm is okay because I watch a lot of Iowa football, so I'm well versed in the arts of quarterback mediocrity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't see anything real special with him too, because some people early in his career when he'd first transferred to Colorado, like, oh, I think he could be an NFL quarterback, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. And I think he can. I just don't know that he'll be a good one.
Yeah, well, I just didn't see,
and clearly the teams aren't that sold out either, because there are teams that do not have a starting quarterback. Absolutely do not have a starting quarterback and did not take him.
Yeah.
Again, I think one of them will take him in the second.
And maybe the best thing for him is to get a little humbled.
Yeah, good luck with that, but maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, if he takes it as a humbling and not I'm going to show everyone, because I'm not sure I'm going to show everyone is good for him, because he already tries to do too much on every play.
That's true.
I greatly enjoyed it. Not this past season, but the season before when Oregon was still in the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
The Oregon-Colorado game was so great because Colorado came in as the surprise upstart. I think undefeated at that point. They hadn't played anyone, but undefeated, and that kid talked a lot of shit before the game. Just he and his buddies just running their mouths.
Oh, they got pounded.
And yeah, Oregon just pounded them, and then Colorado acted like Oregon was being mean. Yeah, and he wasn't good then. He's had his moments where he looks terrific, but not that many of them. There are a lot of flaws in the game.
Yeah.
So
and the other storyline local that I'm going to get a lot of shit for this. It's like, people asking if the Cardinals are going to draft Cam Scattaboo.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I would guess if he's available late, they will. I don't know if he'll be available late.
No. I mean, yeah, if he's like the last pick for the Cardinals in the last round or something, maybe. I just not great college.
You don't think he's a pro pro running back?
I don't think so. I think he's just too small.
A lot of small running backs out there. I mean, like Ashton Genty's like 5'6", isn't he? 5'8". He's not a big guy. There are a lot of smaller running backs.
Yeah, and I think him too is going to have some problems because look at the competition he was facing.
Yeah, but he's almost untackleable.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll see.
The flip side is Barry Sanders.
We'll see.
I think Scadaboo will go in the middle rounds.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how it works. He's
well to me. Like, let me clarify a little bit. Scadaboo was great. I fun watching him last year, and I think he was one of the top 3 running backs maybe in college football last year.
Great college running back.
Great college running back. But I just don't want to see the Cardinals revert back to the old Cardinals. Like that would be to me would feel like a PR draft.
Yeah, I mean, if they take him, it might be. If they take him late,
if they took him like in the 3rd round, I would be like eye roll. Like, come on.
Yeah, I doubt they will do that just because I don't know that it's a great place of need for them right now, and I think someone else might take him that high, maybe a little lower. The interesting thing about Scadaboo is one of his best qualities is you can't tackle him. It takes the entire team to bring him down. That's in college. I don't know. I don't know how that translates in the NFL. It might.
You always get shocked sometimes, like how much smaller that big college back looks in the pros. I mean, 'cause for years, like Iowa would have these backs, like, it's this big college back. Then you'd see him in an NFL uniform, like he looks slow, he looks small.
Yeah. No,
I mean, I think he seems like he's a good kid. Scadaboo. I hope he gets drafted to a team where he could succeed, and hope he does well. To me, as like a lifelong Cardinal, there's some PTSD there. It would feel like just a PR draft pick. Back when, because I don't know if you were living here back in the days when like the Cardinals would sign people for. Like Emmitt Smith, who was on the backside of his career, would do stuff like that. I mean, it would be wildly popular in the Valley to keep him in town.
Yeah,
but would it help the team? I think the running back room is good as where it's at right now.
Yeah. My guess is he goes somewhere else. 3rd, 4th, 5th round, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
but I think he'll be drafted. I'm curious to see how he does because he was a lot of fun to watch in college, and I'm curious to see how well this style translates.
Yeah. Before we go, man, you want to talk Suns' future? Is there one?
Probably. I love the Bob Myers talk. The speculation that they'll be bringing in the former GM of the Golden State Warriors, who is now a commentator for ESPN.
Okay,
and quite good at it. So I mean, you'd have to get him to give up TV. But apparently he's interested, and he did phenomenal work with the Warriors. Some of that is a little bit of just sort of stumbling into some great picks that, when you're drafting Curry and you're drafting Klay Thompson and all that, and, Draymond Green. But also it means you're identifying these guys with the lower picks.
There's always a little bit of luck in almost any field.
Yeah. But, the Warriors drafted brilliantly, and the Suns...
did not.
They don't. So, Ishbia has suggested that there will be changes coming, and the current front office with Barlestein and James Jones may not be what it is now, starting next season. And I don't think you could make a big argument against changes based on the track record and some of the recent draft picks. Would love to see Bob Myers come in and run the place.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we should do a homework assignment and come back next week, like of the players currently in the league, what's the starting 5 of players that the Suns passed on? It would be shocking. Yeah, it was Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Luka Doncic.
I believe it was they took Mikal Bridges instead of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
They passed on Luka.
They passed on Luka because they had to have DeAndre Ayton.
Because he the dominating.
And yeah, the one that pisses me off the most was they drafted Jalen Smith, big guy with the goggles. I don't know, who at the time projected to someday be an adequate backup to DeAndre Ayton. That seemed like the high level.
That was the ceiling.
That was the ceiling.
Yeah.
Was someday he might be an okay backup as a big man. And Tyrese Halliburton was on the board.
Oh boy.
And it's easy to do these things, years later when you go, oh, they could have had on draft night. I'm sitting there going, oh my God, Tyrese Halliburton is on the board. Somehow the Suns have stumbled into Tyrese Halliburton. And then they draft this big stiff who's still in the league. And I think he's averaging like 8 points for the Chicago Bulls. And they could have had Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
And again, the same thing like the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander thing. I'm sitting there amazed that they have a shot at Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and they don't take him.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like SGA would have been another one in the line of really good or great Phoenix point guards.
Yeah,
and there's been a lot of good point guards in Phoenix.
Yeah. We got Mikal Bridges, who was a nice player.
He's a good piece.
But vastly overrated by Suns fans who can't believe we traded him for just Kevin Durant.
But he danced before every game.
Yeah. I know the amount of like young women in the newsroom going, oh my God, I love Cam and Mikal and I can't believe we traded them. Like that, because they're not all that good. And Kevin Durant's one of the greatest players in league history and still for the last 2 years has been their best player on offense and defense.
Yeah.
Whatever went wrong with the Suns, I always see people trying to blame Durant. No. Durant's the only thing that's gone right for the Suns the last 2 years. You can quibble with how much they gave up for him, crippling their future, because, they gave up a lot. Huh. Kevin Durant.
Well, it turns out it wasn't necessarily just that trade. It was the Beal trade that has crippled their future more than anything.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they may just end up eating the $110 million on that for the next 2 years to take less of a cap hit and just let him go.
Yeah. Well, on that, man.
Yeah.
End it right there.
Sounds good.
We still have the rest of Friday to work through, man.
Hey, quick question.
Yeah.
Because this struck me. Last week, we talked about bands that you always wanted to see but couldn't.
Uh-huh.
Or bands that are still around but you haven't seen.
Yeah.
I noticed a band popping up on a few festival lineups.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious how you would view seeing them now.
Oh, boy.
It's the Pogues.
Ooh.
Pogues are playing Riot Fest in Chicago. They're playing a few other shows here and there.
I would love to see the Pogues.
See, I think I still would too.
But I don't.
For those unfamiliar, their front man, their songwriter, singer, all that, Shane McGowan, died a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know who is singing. Although he was out of the band for a while, and one of the other band members.
I think I would love to. Yeah, I think I'd go see them.
I think I would still go see them too. But that just struck me as, the Pogues were not a band I considered on the list of bands I've never seen that I would like to that are still around because they weren't still around. But this week, apparently, they're still around.
But I don't think I would do the whatever it took. I think some of the things we were talking about, like you may go the extra mile to try to see them.
Right. Like the big two on my list I've seen in the last year now because I drove to California to see each of them. I don't know that I'm going that far to see the remains of the Pogues.
Yeah. But I'd love to see them. I would like to see them in a more of a clubby atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm not going to a festival to see them.
No, I mean, if you want to, if you want to like ditch me, just say we're going to a big concert. I'm out.
Yeah,
I those days are long gone.
Yeah,
I will go to clubs, smaller venues, stuff like that. I'm not doing the whole. Every year I see the Coachella stuff and it just looks dreadful.
It does. And I've also hit the age where I will look at the entire Coachella lineup and there are 2 acts I want to see on it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's the idea. I was like, oh, God. And that's why I'm not cool, right? Because I look at that and I go, God, parking must be a mother.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're younger, it's like, that's the last thing you think about. You're like, you're shocked when you show up like, oh, I didn't even think about parking.
No, every aspect of Coachella looks absolutely miserable. Oh, yeah. Go stand in a dirt field with a few 100,000 people listening to like a DJ.
Yeah.
God, no.
I do not understand that.
No.
Much like I don't understand modern country music.
See, I'm pretty good at going, I'm getting older and I guess it's not for me. And that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to understand the kids.
No.
But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
particularly since modern country seems to have hit a spot where like the best thing you can do for your career is cut on tape yelling a racial slur and pretty much instantly go from playing clubs to playing stadiums. I'm not sure that speaks well for country music.
Topic for another show, man.
Yeah.
We can go deep on country.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, wow. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you next week, all.
Thanks for listening. You can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, the Google Store, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. See you next time.